The warning klaxons aboard the Horizon had been blaring for 17 minutes when Dr. Amara Chen accepted they were probably going to die out here, 42 light-years from Earth, with no one to witness their final moments. Primary systems critical. Coolant breach imminent. Life support failing, the ship's AI announced with maddening calm. Captain Rivera's voice crackled over the comms. All personnel, prepare for emergency protocols. This is not a drill. Chen grabbed her research tablet, backing up her xenobiology findings as the deck trembled beneath her feet. 5 years of deep space exploration, and their legacy would be a floating debris field in uncharted space. The ship lurched violently, throwing her against the bulkhead. Through the observation port, she saw them. Massive crystalline shapes emerging from the asteroid field, glinting in the light of the distant star. At first, she thought they were just unusually regular asteroids, until one of them moved. "Captain," she called over the emergency channel, "we have company." The response came immediately. "We see them. All military personnel to defensive positions. First contact protocols suspended. This is now a survival situation." Chen watched, transfixed, as the entities approached. They were enormous, at least 4 meters tall, with faceted crystalline bodies that seemed to shift and refract light. Jagged protrusions extended from what might be limbs, and their movement had a fluid, almost graceful quality, despite their apparent mass. "They're surrounding the ship," reported Lieutenant Kim from the bridge. "At least 7 of them. Weapons are charging, but systems are unstable." Chen studied her scanner readings with growing confusion. "Captain, I'm detecting harmonic vibrations from these entities. Perfect mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci series. That's not random. That's communication." "Dr. Chen, with all due respect, we're about to lose this ship. Those things could be preparing to harvest us for all we know." The largest of the crystalline beings positioned itself directly alongside the damaged engine section. Chen watched as it extended what appeared to be manipulator limbs, lined with serrated crystal edges toward the hull. "It's trying to access the engine," Lieutenant Kim reported. "Should I fire?" Chen made her decision. "No. Wait. Let me try something first." Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed an EVA suit from the emergency locker. "Chen, I order you to stand down." Rivera's voice thundered through the comms. But she was already cycling through the auxiliary airlock, her heart hammering in her chest. The EVA suit's readout showed minimal oxygen, just enough for 15 minutes. It wouldn't matter if she was wrong. Pushing away from the ship, she drifted toward the massive crystalline entity. Up close, it was even more intimidating. Its surface wasn't solid as she'd first thought, but composed of thousands of interlocking crystal formations that shifted and realigned as it moved. The edges looked sharp enough to slice through her suit with minimal effort. The creature paused in its manipulation of the engine housing, turning what she assumed was a sensory cluster toward her. Chen realized she was holding her breath. Suddenly, she lost her stabilization and tumbled in the zero-G environment. Without hesitation, the crystalline giant extended a limb, catching her with surprising gentleness, like someone handling a soap bubble. The crystal edges that had seemed so threatening somehow retracted or realigned, presenting only smooth surfaces against her suit. Through the contact, she felt vibrations pulsing through her body. Her neural translator implant began processing the signals, struggling to convert the alien communication method into something comprehensible. Fragmented words appeared on her HUD. DMNGG. Assist. Careful. Delicate ones. Then, with movements of exquisite precision, the crystalline being stabilized her, then returned to the engine housing. 3 others joined it, and Chen watched in astonishment as they began expertly repairing the damaged systems, their crystalline limbs reconfiguring into specialized tools. "Captain," she breathed into her comms, "they're not attacking us. They're saving us." The galaxy's most physically intimidating species was desperately trying to help repair the human vessel while terrified of accidentally hurting what they called the fragile organics. 3 days after the Horizon's miraculous repair, Captain Rivera reluctantly agreed to a cultural exchange. The crystalline beings, who called themselves the Ketval, had extended an invitation to their asteroid colony, though their translated communications contained dozens of warnings about hazards for soft beings and extreme caution protocols. Chief Engineer Malik Rodriguez led the small delegation, alongside Dr. Chen and 2 security officers who looked comically undersized next to their Ketval escort. The shuttle docked with what appeared to be a simple mining outpost, but as they stepped through the airlock, the humans froze in collective awe. The asteroid had been hollowed into a vast cathedral of crystal. Transparent walkways spanned impossible distances between structures that resembled massive geodes, their interiors glittering with lights that pulsed in mathematical patterns. The entire colony seemed alive, humming with resonant frequencies that vibrated pleasantly against human skin. "Magnificent engineering," Rodriguez whispered. "The structural integrity calculations alone would take our best computers years." Their guide, who had introduced itself as light through ancient stone, led them along a pathway that widened considerably to accommodate its 4-meter frame. The massive being moved with excruciating slowness, constantly pausing to ensure the humans remained at what it deemed a safe distance. The delegation was ushered into a vast chamber where 7 enormous Ketval sat in a semicircle. The Council of Elders, their translator explained. One stepped forward, its crystalline body shifting hues from deep blue to a vibrant purple. "Welcome, resilient ones," the translation came through. "We observe necessary caution. Your molecular density fragile. Our apologies for confined accommodations." Rodriguez looked around at the cavernous space that could comfortably hold a small shuttle and fought back a smile. The elder extended what appeared to be an offering, a small, exquisitely carved crystal figurine representing the Horizon. As the Ketval carefully lowered it toward Rodriguez, the figurine slipped from its manipulator and shattered on the floor. The effect was instantaneous and bewildering. Every Ketval in the chamber froze completely, their crystalline bodies dimming to a dull gray. The vibrations in the air ceased entirely, creating an unnerving silence. "What happened?" whispered one of the security officers. Before anyone could respond, a small voice called out from behind them. "Dad, these aliens are amazing." Rodriguez whirled around in horror. "Maya, how did you?" His 8-year-old daughter had somehow stowed away on the shuttle and now stood gazing up at the frozen Ketval with unrestrained delight. "Maya, get back here right now." Rodriguez hissed, but it was too late. The girl had already approached the nearest Ketval, a younger, smaller individual only about 3 meters tall. Without hesitation, she reached out and patted its crystalline leg. "You look like my dinosaur collection, but shinier. Are you sad? Did you break something?" "I break stuff all the time." The Ketval's color shifted rapidly through several spectrums before settling on a soft pink hue. It lowered itself with incredible precision until it was eye level with the child. "Dangerous proximity," its translator vibrated. "Possibility of harm. Significant." Maya giggled. "You're not dangerous. You're too careful. Look." She deliberately dropped her own toy, a small plastic spaceship, which clattered on the floor. "See, breaking things isn't that bad." Something extraordinary happened then. The young Ketval produced a sound like wind through crystal chimes. Laughter, the translators eventually determined, and carefully, with movements of astonishing precision, picked up both the broken figurine and Maya's toy. Small human shows wisdom, it communicated. Imperfection, not catastrophic. Maya climbed fearlessly onto a crystalline protrusion on the being's shoulder. "Can you give me a ride around your crystal castle, shiny dinosaur friend?" The entire chamber erupted in harmonic resonances as the Ketval colony experienced what Dr. Chen's notes would later describe as collective emotional release. The vibrations translated roughly as profound joy. Rodriguez stepped forward, expecting to need to retrieve his daughter, but stopped when he saw the meticulous care with which the young Ketval balanced her on its shoulder, its entire massive form reconfigured to create a secure seat. "The problem is obvious," he told the Council of Elders. "You've built a society for giants who think they're monsters. You need to learn what my daughter already knows. Strength can be gentle when guided by friendship." Within weeks, the most physically imposing species in the galaxy was hosting tea parties with human children, moving with exquisite gentleness while wearing colorful decorations, the children attached to their crystal bodies. "The Human Ketval Alliance welcomes you to New Unity Station," Ambassador Chen's voice echoed through the vast chamber. 6 months after first contact, representatives from 23 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for an unprecedented summit. The station's architecture itself was a statement: human-designed open spaces reinforced by Ketval crystalline supports. Most delegates seemed impressed, though not all were pleased by the rapid rise of this unexpected partnership. "How quaint," hissed Estherax, the Ophidian Confederacy ambassador, his scaled hood flaring slightly. The pets and their crystal masters playing at diplomacy. Lieutenant Sophia Dias, assigned as security liaison, tensed at the insult, but maintained her professional demeanor. Her Ketval partner, Stone that remembers stars, dimmed slightly in what she recognized as embarrassment. "Don't let it bother you," she whispered. "They're just intimidated." The situation deteriorated during trade route negotiations. The technologically advanced Vrilics refused to sit at the same table as the savage war beasts, despite the Ketval representatives remaining perfectly motionless to appear non-threatening. "This alliance is an abomination," the Vrilics delegate declared, their translator rendering the words in harsh, clipped tones. "Humans lack the evolutionary maturity to understand the danger they court." Ambassador Chen maintained her composure. "Perhaps what looks like danger to some appears as opportunity to others. We've discovered our species complement each other in ways." The explosion cut her off mid-sentence. The floor beneath the central platform erupted in flames and twisted metal. Dias was thrown backward by the blast wave, her vision blurring as emergency containment fields activated. Through the smoke, she saw delegates scrambling toward escape pods. Then she saw something else. 3 massive Ketval forming their bodies into a protective dome over a group of injured delegates, including several Vrilics who had been closest to the explosion. "Stone," Dias shouted, searching for her partner amidst the chaos. A section of ceiling collapsed, trapping her beneath rubble alongside the Ophidian ambassador, who had insulted them earlier. "Help will come," Stherax said, his breathing labored. "Though I doubt either of our species is their priority." "You're wrong," Dias replied, tasting blood in her mouth. The debris above them shifted suddenly, and Stone's crystalline form appeared, carefully lifting the heaviest beams. As the Ketval worked to free them, Dias noticed with horror that one of Stone's limbs was severely fractured, crystalline shards falling from the damaged appendage. "Stop. You're hurting yourself," she called out. Stone's response came through their shared translator. "Your safety overrides structural integrity concerns." With deliberate precision, the Ketval broke off the damaged limb entirely, using the fractured crystal to create a brace that prevented further ceiling collapse. Dias watched in amazement as Stone reconfigured its remaining limbs to compensate, never pausing in the rescue effort. The Ophidian ambassador stared in disbelief. "It's self-damaged. To assist us." Dias nodded, already collecting the scattered crystal fragments. "He knows I'll help him regrow it later." That's what friends do. When they finally emerged from the rubble, the scene throughout the chamber told a similar story. Ketval delegates had positioned themselves as living shields around humans and other species alike. Medical teams worked frantically on the injured, with Ketval carefully holding open damaged sections of the station to maintain atmospheric integrity. Later, security footage would identify the culprit, a Vrilics extremist determined to prevent the Alliance from gaining influence. But the most viewed transmission across the galaxy that day was something else entirely. The image of Stone carrying both the injured Dias and the previously scornful Ophidian ambassador to safety, despite its own devastating injuries. At the emergency council meeting afterward, the Ophidian Confederacy was the first to formally request alliance membership. "We may have misjudged," Thorax admitted, his scales now a humble blue. "Those we called walking tanks have shown us the true meaning of strength." Ambassador Chen simply nodded. "The Ketval believe themselves monsters because of their power. We showed them that true strength lies in how gently that power is wielded." Perimeter breach in Sector 7. All personnel, initiate emergency protocols. The automated warning echoed through the Ketval mining colony on Enceladus IV. Within minutes, the colony's communications went silent. 3 days later, when the automated distress beacon finally reached Alliance space, the message contained a single visual. The insignia of the Mrekthar Dominion burned into the colony's central plaza. The Alliance Council convened an emergency session. "The Mrekthar have never breached this far into our territory," Admiral Tanaka reported. "Initial scans show 4 battlecruisers in orbit. We estimate 200 colonists are being held hostage." Ambassador Chen studied the tactical display grimly. "The Ketval are engineers, not soldiers. They specifically requested no weapons in their colony design, which is exactly why the Mrekthar targeted them," Commander Jackson Wei remarked from the doorway. At 72, her frame was lean but powerful, enhanced by military-grade prosthetics from injuries sustained in Earth's pre-contact conflicts. Wei had been retired for 15 years, but Chen had personally requested her presence. "You have experience the rest of us lack," the ambassador explained. Tactical projections showed that even the fastest military response would take at least 4 days. "The Mrekthar are insectoid conquerors," Wei noted, studying their attack patterns. "They measure worth exclusively through combat performance." "Then the colonists are already lost," someone murmured. Wei's expression hardened. "No, I'll take a rapid deployment team. 1 ship, minimal crew. Against 4 battlecruisers." Admiral Tanaka scoffed. "That's suicide." "Not with the right personnel," Wei replied. 26 hours later, the Alliance stealth vessel Quietus dropped out of FTL on the dark side of Enceladus IV's moon. Aboard were Commander Wei and 12 veterans of the recently formed Synergy Corps, human soldiers specially trained to work with Ketval partners. Scans revealed the situation had deteriorated. In the colony's central plaza, the Mrekthar War Queen had established an arena where Ketval colonists were being forced to fight each other for the invaders' entertainment. Most refused, standing motionless despite the painful sonic prods used against them. "They won't defend themselves," Lieutenant Harper observed through the surveillance feed. "They're terrified of becoming what the Mrekthar want. Killers." We nodded, "Which is exactly why we're here." She turned to the 12 Ketval who had accompanied them. Each one bonded to a specific human partner through months of intense training. "Are you ready to show the galaxy what synchronization truly means?" The crystalline beings shifted to their combat configuration, a form they had initially refused to even discuss until their human partners convinced them that protection and aggression were not the same thing. The Mrekthar detection grid registered only a single approaching shuttle. War Queen Kizavax mandated a public challenge, expecting easy prey. The arena filled with chittering soldiers as Commander Wei approached alone. "Your species sends 1 elder to challenge the Dominion." The War Queen's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Where is your army, human?" Wei smiled thinly. "I understand you value strength above all else. Allow me to introduce our answer." At her signal, 12 Ketval emerged from the shuttle, each bearing a human rider in specialized combat harnesses. The War Queen's compound eyes widened as she recognized the implications. What followed became the stuff of legend. The synchronized pairs moved with impossible precision, the humans directing strategy through neural tactical links, while their Ketval partners executed with unstoppable force. Where the Mrekthar expected clumsy behemoths, they found lightning precision. The turning point came when a Mrekthar champion managed to knock Corporal Davis from her partner's shoulder platform. As she fell, her Ketfall partner, like through ancient stone, caught her midair, curled protectively around her small human form, then unfurled in a devastatingly precise counterattack. After just 17 minutes, the Mrekthar forces stood down. The War Queen herself approached Wei, mandibles lowered in the insectoid gesture of respect. "We misunderstood," she clicked softly. "We thought the crystal giants were weak for refusing combat. Now we see the truth. They were waiting for worthy guidance." Wei shook her head. "Not guidance. Partnership. They feared becoming mindless destroyers. We taught them something uniquely human, how to fight not for conquest, but for protection." As the liberated colonists emerged from shelter, something unprecedented occurred. The War Queen extended her primary limb toward the nearest Ketval in the traditional Mrekthar warrior bond gesture. "The Dominion requests alliance with the perfect warriors," she announced. "We have much to learn from those who fight with both strength and restraint." "Convergence Station is open for business," announced Director Julia Reeves as the ribbon-cutting ceremony concluded. 2 years after first contact, the Alliance had completed its most ambitious project, a massive space station with dual habitation zones designed for both species to live together comfortably. The central atrium bustled with activity as humans and Chetval mingled freely. Along one wall, a crystalline being carefully taught human children how to grow simple geometric shapes from seed crystals. Nearby, a human dance troupe performed alongside Chetval, who created harmonic resonances by modulating their crystal structures. Not everyone approved. A small group of protesters from the Purist Human League had gathered at the station's docking bay, their banners declaring "Humanity First" and "Preserviv Genetiki Destiny." "They corrupt what makes us human," shouted their leader, a man named Garrett Phillips. "These walking mountains will crush our children's future." Security personnel moved to contain the situation, but not before an elderly Ketval philosopher named Crystal Song in Wind approached the protest line. The security team tensed, fearing confrontation. The massive crystalline being stopped at a respectful distance, then lowered itself to appear less intimidating, a posture that had become common Ketval etiquette when addressing humans. From a specialized compartment in its crystalline matrix, it produced a small, perfect crystal sphere and extended it toward Phillips. "A gift," the Ketval's translator hummed. "Please observe." Curiosity overcoming caution, Phillips accepted the sphere. As his fingers touched its surface, the crystal illuminated from within, displaying three-dimensional images of Earth species: a Sumatran tiger, a white rhinoceros, a golden toad. "These are extinct," Phillips said, confused. "Not anymore," the philosopher responded. "We have preserved their genetic sequences within living crystal matrices. The Alliance Reintroduction Program begins next month." The Ketval's colors shifted to deep blue, a sign of profound emotion. "We have preserved what you would have lost, just as you have preserved something we never possessed: joy in our own existence." The protest dispersed quietly after that, though Phillips stayed behind, still holding the crystal sphere, deep in conversation with the Ketval philosopher. Inside the station's research wing, human medical researchers and Ketval biologists unveiled their most revolutionary development: crystalline grafting. Dr. Elena Morales demonstrated the procedure on a holographic patient. By bonding living Ketval crystal to human tissue, we can create prosthetics that not only replace lost limbs, but function better than the originals, she explained. The crystal adapts to the host, growing with them and responding to neural impulses naturally. The first recipient stood nearby, a young girl who had lost her arm in an accident. She demonstrated by playing a complex piano piece, her crystalline fingers moving within human precision. "I can feel everything," she told the assembled reporters. "Not just pressure or temperature, but textures I never could before, and it never gets tired." Meanwhile, at the station's entertainment dome, The first tandem racing championship was reaching its climax. Human pilot Eliza Sharma and her Ketfall navigator Facets, that Remember Light, maneuvered their craft through an asteroid field at speeds that would be suicide for either species alone. The trick is in the neural harmonization, Sharma explained later to a captivated audience. I can't process spatial information fast enough for these speeds, and my partner can't make quick enough decisions. But together, she grinned, we're unbeatable. What made their victory all the more remarkable was that Sharma had been blind since birth. Through their neural link, she saw through her partner's crystalline senses, while the Ketfall benefited from her intuitive human reflexes. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Chen found herself approached by a Vrilics observer who had been notably silent during the earlier protests. We still have reservations about this alliance, the Vrilics admitted. But what you've created here challenges our assumptions. These achievements in just 2 years. The alien hesitated. We request observer status in your next cultural exchange initiative. Chen smiled diplomatically. Of course. The next exchange focuses on something humans call music. The Ketfall are particularly excited about something called jazz. Apparently, it's all about improvisation within structure, which they find philosophically profound. The Alliance Military Council's emergency meeting had been in session for 18 hours when Admiral Tanaka finally voiced what everyone feared. The Zextrill have assimilated 3 civilizations in the past month alone. At this rate, they'll reach Alliance space within 2 weeks. Holographic projections showed the relentless advance of the insectoid collective consciousness, each conquered world adding to their neural network as captured species were integrated through parasitic implants. The Galactic Council has voted, Ambassador Chen reported grimly. They're proposing surrender of our outer colonies as a buffer zone, hoping to appease the Zextrill's expansion. The room fell silent until a communication request chimed from the laboratory wing. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the girl who had once fearlessly befriended a shiny dinosaur, now grown into the Alliance's leading xenoanthropologist, appeared on screen alongside her lifelong Ketfall friend, Song that bridges stars. We have a proposal, she announced, but it requires volunteers willing to undergo an experimental procedure. 2 days later, as the Zextrill Queen Mind's ultimatum reached Alliance space, the defense force that assembled at Proxima Colony confounded all strategic projections. Instead of a conventional fleet, just 12 vessels took position, each carrying a single human Ketfall pair. Resistance is mathematically futile. The Queen Mind's message resonated through the neural implants of every sentient being in the sector. Your biological variations will enhance our perfection. The Zextrill's first attack employed their most devastating weapon, a psychic assault designed to paralyze individual minds with overwhelming sensory input. Across the galaxy, civilizations watched in horrified fascination, expecting swift conquest. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented. Each human Ketfall pair had undergone Rodriguez's procedure, a crystalline interface linking their nervous systems in ways previously thought impossible. As the psychic assault struck, the pairs remained functional, the human consciousness flowing through crystalline pathways the Zextrill couldn't breach. Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka, linked with the Ketfall Elder path through darkness, led the counterattack. When later asked to explain their immunity, he struggled for words. The Queen Mind attacks by overwhelming single consciousness patterns. But we weren't single minds anymore. My thoughts flowed through crystal. My partner's precision guided my intuition. We became something new. The conflict reached its climax at Titan Station when Commander Annika Dale and her partner, Crystal, that dreams deliberately allowed themselves to be captured. Security footage showed them surrounded by Zextrill drones, absorbed into the massive biological high ship. Hours later, the Queen Mind vessel began exhibiting erratic behavior. Its perfect formation dissolved as sections appeared to fight each other. The Alliance fleet held position, puzzled by the unexpected development. When communications finally restored, The message they received wasn't from the Queen Mind, but from Dale herself. The assimilation worked, just not as they intended. Her voice came through, strained but triumphant. When they tried to absorb our linked consciousness, we introduced something the Hive has never encountered before. What could possibly disrupt a consciousness that's assimilated entire species? Admiral Tanaka demanded. The response came not from Dale, but from her Ketval partner. Human imagination. The concept of impossibility. The ability to believe multiple contradictory ideas simultaneously. The Ketval's crystalline neural structure had amplified Dale's human capacity for abstract thought, flooding the purely logical hive mind with paradoxes, fictional scenarios, and emotional responses it couldn't process. The resulting cascade had temporarily crashed the Queen Mind, allowing Alliance forces to deliver a decisive blow. In the aftermath, recovered Zex-Trill drones exhibited something entirely new: individuality. Fragments of human neural patterns had corrupted the perfect uniformity of the Hive, introducing concepts of personal choice. At the emergency Galactic Council session that followed, the Ophidian ambassador summarized what many were thinking. We feared the humans for befriending walking tanks. Now we understand. It was never about the physical power of their allies, but the unique way humans connect with the unlike. The Vrilic's representative, historically skeptical of the Alliance, added, the Zex-Trill sought perfect assimilation. Instead, they found that human minds resist uniformity on a fundamental level. The species that befriends tanks cannot be forced into a hive. 5 years after defeating the Zex-Trill, the Alliance Research Division unveiled its most ambitious project yet, the Genesis vessels. As the protective hangar shields retracted, gasps echoed through the observation deck. The ship looked almost alive, a seamless blend of crystalline structures and organic curves that seemed to pulse with inner light. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, Dr. Rodriguez announced, her voice carrying the confidence of the girl who had once climbed fearlessly onto a Ketval's shoulder. I present the future of interstellar travel. Unlike conventional spacecraft cobbled together from disparate systems, the Genesis vessels were grown rather than built, living ships created by merging Ketval crystalline biology with human neural interfaces. The crystalline hull is capable of self-repair and adaptation to environmental threats, Rodriguez explained. More importantly, these vessels form neural bonds with their crews, similar to the connections our military pairs developed during the Zex-Trill conflict. Representatives from 17 species clamored to purchase or license the technology. The Vrilic's offered unprecedented trade concessions. The Ophidian Confederacy proposed a joint defense initiative. Admiral Chen, formerly Ambassador Chen, listened to the offers with diplomatic patience before delivering uncomfortable news. Our initial tests reveal that Genesis vessels only form viable connections with human Ketval paired crews. The technology cannot be transferred or replicated without both species' direct involvement. The announcement triggered a diplomatic crisis as accusations of technological hoarding spread through the Galactic Council. The uproar continued until a catastrophic event rendered the debate moot. The Cygnus Pulsar, a stellar beacon used to calibrate FTL navigation throughout 7 systems, began an unexpected collapse. Radiation levels spiked to lethal levels across the affected sector, with conventional FTL drives rendered useless by gravitational disruption. Thousands of ships, including those from species critical of the Alliance, found themselves trapped in a slowly dying region of space. Captain Alina Reyes and her bonded partner, Lights Between Stars, received the emergency deployment order while their Genesis vessel Symbiosis was still undergoing final testing. The radiation will kill any human within minutes, the mission controller warned. And the gravitational shear would shatter any Ketval, Lights added. Reyes checked the ship's neural link readouts. But neither of us is going in alone, are we? The Symbiosis entered the radiation zone at maximum velocity, its crystalline hull already adapting to filter the deadly energies. Inside, Raya's occupy a specially designed fluid chamber that protected her from the gravitational forces that would have crushed a conventional vessel. Through their neural link, her mind merged with both her Ketfall partner and the ship itself, creating a triple consciousness. What happened next would rewrite astrophysics textbooks across the galaxy. My partner's crystalline matrix filtered the radiation while my brain calculated escape trajectories too complex for conventional computers, Raya's later explained to a stunned Galactic Council. But somewhere in that fusion of minds, we discovered something new. While rescuing stranded ships, the symbiosis had briefly stabilized the pulsar itself, using a technique that defied conventional understanding, a method combining crystalline resonance patterns with human intuitive mathematics that existed only in the moment of perfect synchronization between unlike minds. At an emergency council session, the Vrilix ambassador demanded the Alliance share the pulsar stabilization technology, offering unlimited resources in exchange. Admiral Chen's response silenced the chamber. There is no technology to share. What you witnessed was two friends thinking as one, with capabilities neither species possesses alone. We cannot give you the math because it only exists in the moment of perfect understanding between unlike minds. Later, in private conversation with Dr. Rodriguez, Chen voiced her deeper concern. They still don't understand. They think we've built super weapons or miracle machines. Rodriguez watched through the viewport as human children played alongside young Ketval in the station's gravity-neutral zone. That's because they're looking for things, not relationships. They want our ships, not our connections. And that, Chen replied, is precisely why they couldn't have created this alliance in the first place. 20 years after the Horizon first encountered the crystalline giants that would change humanity's destiny, Synorchaeologists made a discovery that shook the foundations of galactic society. Deep within an uncharted system, they uncovered ruins predating all known civilizations, the legendary precursors who had seeded the cosmos with life before mysteriously vanishing eons ago. Dr. Maya Rodriguez led the joint human Ketval research team that finally decoded the precursor's final transmission. The message was broadcast simultaneously across all Alliance channels, and from there to the wider galaxy. We failed the ultimate test. Connection between unlike minds remains impossible. Our children must succeed where we could not. Within hours of the translation, long-dormant technology within the ruins activated, creating a dimensional rift near Alpha Centauri. From this swirling vortex emerged a vessel of impossible geometry. The precursors, evolved into energy beings beyond physical constraints, had returned to judge their children. Their message resonated through every communication device in explored space. Only civilizations capable of true symbiosis may join us in transcendence. All others face entropy as the universe's natural endpoint. The test begins. The Galactic Council fractured under pressure. Some species proposed a unified military response. Others began religious movements worshiping the returned creators. Several withdrew into isolation, focusing on their own transcendence attempts. The Alliance response was unprecedented. The Generation ship Unity, carrying 1,000 human Ketval bonded pairs and their children, approached the rift. Leading the mission was Maya Rodriguez, now chief cynoanthropologist, alongside her lifelong friend and husband. Song that bridges stars. The once terrified Ketval youth, she had called her Shiny Dinosaur, all those years ago. The precursors subjected the Alliance to a series of increasingly impossible challenges designed to prove that different consciousness types could not truly unite. The final test separated each pair, placing humans and Ketval in environments lethal to the other. They expect us to choose self-preservation, Maya realized as toxic atmosphere filled her chamber. Through her neural link, now degrading with distance, she felt her partner's desperate concern from across the vast testing arena. Using techniques developed during decades of partnership, Maya broke off crystalline fragments embedded in her skin, living pieces of her husband that had become part of her over years of biological exchange. As her consciousness began to fade, She used these fragments to encode her neural patterns, transmitting them across the impossible distance. Across the testing chambers, Song That Bridges Stars received these fading patterns and completed her final message to the precursors. You searched the cosmos for unlike minds that could become one. You overlooked the obvious. Sometimes the greatest differences exist on the same world. Humans have always seen ourselves in the other, whether in the eyes of our pets, the trust of our children, or now, in the crystalline facets of those you would have us fear. The testing chambers dissolved as the precursor's judgment rippled through space-time itself. The dying pairs found themselves restored, standing before manifestations of pure energy that somehow conveyed both surprise and joy. We sought species who could bridge the gap between unlike minds. The precursor voice resonated. We never imagined it would be the soft ones who befriended the walking tanks. Your capacity for meaningful connection has achieved what billions of years of evolution could not. As the Unity returned to Alliance space, it brought the precursor's final gift, the understanding that transcendence was not about technological advancement or biological perfection, but about the capacity to form genuine connections across boundaries. In the decades that followed, young humans continued their tradition of fearlessly climbing onto their massive crystalline friends, while young Ketval learned the delicate precision needed to hold human babies. Throughout the galaxy, species once divided by fear began their own tentative connections, inspired by the unlikely friendship between fragile beings of flesh and the walking tanks they refused to fear. Maya's granddaughter, playing in the crystal gardens of New Earth, perhaps summarized it best when asked by a visiting dignitary why humans had succeeded where older, more advanced species had failed. "That's easy," the child replied. "Grandma always told me that sometimes the scariest-looking friends are the best ones, especially when they try so hard to be gentle."